So Donald Trump's mental decline keeps getting worse, and in fact, it's on full display in this most recent interview. We've got to watch together, and let's just jump right in.
Say that.
Well, tell me,
we had the same bird flu as he had.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything.
So if it's good, it must be Trump, and if it's bad, it must be Biden. I mean, that's the delusional land that he lives in, and the question is, how many Americans are going to go along with this kind of talk? Again, if it's good, it must be me. If it's bad, it must be Biden. And how long can you also make that argument? As you guys know, his polling numbers are declining along with this mental state, and you'll just see it in this interview. Let's watch a little bit more here.
This week got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls.
and this is like, the supposed billionaire saying, guys, you don't need a bunch of dolls. Well, you don't need $300. You can have 3 or 4. Hey, I'll be generous. And the point isn't necessarily just the number of dolls. It's I don't know what the word would say it. How about this? We'll say this. It's kind of like, hey, I can have all the money. I can have the names on my planes. I can have the names of my buildings. But you little people out there, you don't need anything at all. And isn't it strange? Like the people that worship Trump, they think he's a good businessman. They think he's rich. And basically he inflates his income, right? Inflates his wealth because that's what people worship. But yet then said supposed rich person is saying you don't need all of these things. Or another way you could look at it is like, well, you don't need any choices. I'll decide which items you get, and you only need like 3 or 4. It's like so insane. That's why it's fun to look at this stuff. But I think he's kind of upset about the Donnie $2 nickname is trying to change his name to like Donnie $4. So let's see. Let's watch a little bit more.
Because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
And when he doubles down, then you're like, okay, yeah, this guy's nuts. Okay, guys, so I guess now we can call him Donnie 5 pencil. So you don't need 250 pencils when you can have 5. But again, it's just so nuts that the people who worship Trump, they worship him because he's a good business person. They think, right? They worship him because he's got wealth, and then he's basically saying wealth for me, not for you, and you don't need all of these choices. Someone actually brought up that there was an old Wendy's commercial way back when. Where Wendy's was kind of making fun of like, in the Soviet Union, this is an old commercial where you only have like 2, outfits to wear, and you should be happy with that. And come to Wendy's, you get more choice. But if you understand what he's saying, he's basically saying, hey guys, sacrifice your choices, sacrifice your life, and we're all going to be rich. It's a strange way to talk about this stuff, like getting rich off paying more taxes, according to him. Let's watch some more.
But you're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariff.
We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
Well,
and I actually want to mention this because the way the Republicans try to paint it now is like stuff from China is junk that we don't need. Someone wrote in the community, and I want all sincerity, was saying that one of their family members has a heart problem, and to get a heart replacement may require some parts from China, and so the cost of that is going up considerably, right? So, don't just think, yes, we make fun of dolls or make fun of pencils or whatever like that, but don't think that we don't get anything of importance from China. We get a lot of stuff from China. It's part of trade, and it's not just China, it's multiple countries around the world. And Trump just keeps going off this notion, and then they use like these crazy numbers that he throws around. The numbers don't really add up. The numbers don't really make sense. It doesn't include everything in the economy or how we exchange. And also, too, we're all connected. If you're watching this channel, you probably know this stuff already, but it's just good to reiterate this stuff. Let's watch a little bit more. And again, I just wanted to bring it back to just reality. There are some people who really do get hurt and have some very serious repercussions for the cost of going up.
Prices are already going up on some popular items, tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. And let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which
Okay, so there's two things to address, and this is like what I'd like to ask you guys in your community. Are prices down on everything? Basically, according to Trump, he thinks prices are down on everything, be it from groceries to gas. I mean, basically just everything. And I honestly think this shows the disconnect that he has with just regular common people. He doesn't even know what the word groceries is really. Last time he was like, "Oh, groceries! Oh, what a beautiful word! Wow, this is groceries, such an old word." Like, what? But you know, for someone like him, he doesn't live a regular person's life. I mean, one, he lives off in his fantasy land, so that's one way he doesn't live a regular person life. And two, he's like always had servants and people do stuff for him, so he has no connection to what regular people do or feel, and it becomes apparent. And so, the question I always pose to you with any of these things is, do you agree? Do you agree that everything in your neighborhood is down in price? And once you establish, like, yeah, he's just making random stuff up, you start to realize, yeah, that this is insane. And I think more and more Americans will realize that also. So let's watch some more.
And we're doing really well psychologically. I mean, the fake news was giving me such press on the tariffs. The tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to be a very rich country.
So let's talk.
So honestly, I think among him and Musk and all their billionaire buddies who are basically scamming their followers and scamming the country, basically, or scamming the world, you could say. Sure, maybe they're getting their bribes and their kickbacks and stuff like that. Maybe they're making money off their crypto coins or whatever. But are you, the regular person, getting rich off of paying more taxes on your goods? It's laughable, right? But that's why you have to just like look at the stuff. And honestly, guys, he spoke for an hour. I'm just showing you like a little bit of it. I mean, it was nonsense, nonstop. Have a look. We'll have watch this a little bit some more.
40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
Well, I'm just asking you about small businesses. Are there any discussions about giving any relief to small businesses?
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
Are these tariffs?
If you build your product here. Remember, there are no tariffs if you build your product here. It's very...
And to be fair to the interviewer, it must be hard to sit in a room with like crazy person who actually is president, because, and this was a fair question, like, hey, are you going to give relief to small business owners, right? Because we've been hearing a lot of small businesses may have to close, basically. And his first response, if you watch, he's like, shrugged his shoulder, small business? Who cares about small business? Like, they don't give me any money, And again, for him, he's all about profiting off the presidency, taking bribes, doing these corrupt deals, and it's become quite obvious when you see this stuff. And the frustrating thing about any of these things, and I realize that the more sort of this second term goes on, is, I'll just be honest, and it's hard to be honest without being too mean, but a lot of his followers don't understand numbers at all, and don't understand anything. And so then once you realize they don't understand anything, then they're easy to fool and easy to lie to. And so my job or goal every single day is just try to lay it out as plainly and as simply as possible. And coming from the perspective, I just want people to be educated and to live in reality, which I don't think is a crazy thing to say, to be perfectly frank. And so if someone asks him a question, hey, do you care about small businesses? And he's just like, well, they don't need my help, basically. That tells you who he is and sort of what his goals are. And I can't put it any plainer. Let's watch some more here.
Are being hit hard by judges that I think they're trying to take away the power of the presidency. I was elected in a massive landslide in a big...
Yeah, so then he's talking about how much that he won and stuff like that. And it's like, he got less than 50% of the vote. It's like, I talk about the popular vote, it's like he was at 49 and Kamala Harris was at 48. So it was split. And like, I think the turnout in USA was something like 64%, something like that. So there's a bunch of people that didn't vote. And I encourage you guys participate in your politics. This is what you get if you don't care and are apathetic. And I also want to talk about sort of how to make things better in the future. You have to show people how bad it can get, right? I mean, you're seeing it. You do not want a delusional person who does not care about the just regular people being in charge, and you can see it right here. And it's not even just the not caring, it's living off in some fantasy land. So when I see this stuff, I think that he may actually believe the stuff that he says. I always wonder about that, because the stuff he's saying is not true, right? Then the question becomes, does he really believe these untruths, or is he just purposely lying? And it could be a combination of both. Let's watch a little bit more here.
Decision and announce it pretty soon, close to $9 trillion. We've never had anything close. Now, that's Apple building $500 billion worth of plants. They always built their plants in China. Now they're building their plants over here.
Okay, so what's he's talking about here? And like I said, this is an hour long, and if you want to watch the whole thing, you can. It's crazy, but I just want to show you some of the highlights. The numbers that he keeps saying that we're supposedly getting rich off keeps going up. So last time, I think it was like 6 trillion. Then it was 7, 8, and then today suddenly it balloons to like $9 trillion theoretically. We're getting, and then it's like, okay, we're getting these numbers, and I looked it up, and people don't actually know where he's getting these numbers. I think he's just pulling it out of his butt, to be really frank. Some of it, to be fair, some of it is pledges by companies over the next 5 years. Okay, just a pledge, and a lot of these pledges are grossly inflated, because I promise you guys, things can get canceled in a hurry, right? So, for example, if I say, and think of it this way, the best way to describe it would be like, that friend that always says, they borrow money and then they always say they're going to pay you back, but never do. And each week you ask them, and they have some stupid excuse of why they don't pay you back. That's the kind of person Trump is. It's the one who just continually breaks their promises and then just gives you some wild excuse. And then in this situation, it's like he continually inflates the numbers that supposedly are coming into the country. But again, these are all pledges. No one's digging ground, stuff like that. And even in the Apple situation, they recently were talking about, like Tim Cook mentioned it, and I mentioned on the channel, the devices and stuff like that. You may be seeing more coming from Vietnam and India. So the idea that suddenly we're gonna have Apple and all these companies building 9 trillion investments, it's just nonsense. So that's the best way to put it. Let's watch some more here.
Some of them.
Oh, I wouldn't do that, because if somebody thought they were going to come off the table, why would they build in the United States?
Yeah, and that was talking about, do you think the tariffs are going to be permanent or not? Can you say anything about that? And he's just like, I'm not going to say I'm going to take them off, so like that. So it's actually a lot of the discussion today was on tariffs, the Garcia situation, some of the wild things that he said. I think the doll one was the most interesting one, so I showed you guys that first. There's a lot in here. Let's watch a little bit more.
Has said some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns that the possibility of a recession is increasing. And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well,
so that's been the prediction. And essentially right now we're looking at, okay, can we at least keep the ship afloat? Can we not sink? And let's say Trump didn't do anything at all. Okay, let's say Trump didn't do anything at all. The world would be on a dangerous path as it is, because we've been in a bubble. We have a major population crisis. This is all around the world. Essentially, we just have people are living longer. There's a larger group of elderly individuals. We have a less workforce to support said system, right? This is just reality in numbers. And then on top of that, like, there's only so much growth that we can have. I'll put it this way, the most simplest way to think about it. Let's say you have a population of like 10 people, okay? And everyone's having kids and everything's going great, and you have all this land, and then next year you have a population of 20 people. So then you have all this growth and also all this opportunity to build new houses, etc. But there comes a point where like your country's going to stop growing in terms of population growth. Just keep it really simple. And people don't need as many houses anymore in this example. In fact, the USA is going to be facing population decline. And so this is just a demographic issue. You have, and I believe that the last numbers, and it keeps changing because it's hard to predict exactly when the population will peak and then start to go down. Last time I checked, I think it was like 2070, and then it's moved down to like 2050. Like it moves around, but you can see it in the numbers. You can see the numbers in the birth rates and stuff like that. And I'm just mentioning that particular part because if you understand the idea that we can't necessarily just say double the population of USA and ensure that, we're going to double the amount of houses that we're building and ensure that, all these companies are going to grow. You kind of get what we're getting at. And then you have this sort of situation all around the world. It becomes a point where things don't grow as fast as they used to. And then we also have a system to where a lot of it is built on debt. And so, just all these factors come in, and then you have Trump's tariffs, which put an unnecessary burden on so many families. It becomes, unsustainable. It's the best way to put it. So, there's multiple factors account. And then, the question is, hey, what do you think about recession? Because economies do go up and down. This is the cycle. What do you think? And he's like, well, then I'll hear what he has to say.
You say some people on Wall Street say, well, I can tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Why don't you talk about them? Because
it's like, who says that? Who says that? Is that like some fake, advisor of yours, that kind of thing? And that right there, I mean, the whole thing I just showed you this interview, it captures sort of the delusional land that he's in. So I do appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.